the trainer was going to call the police. Call the police. That was until the geeky blonde began hitting the speed bag with lightning fast speed. So fast did the mutant hit the speed bag that everyone stopped what they were doing and stood dumbfounded at the geeky blonde as the geeky blonde as it stopped and looked and stood dumbfounded at the geeky blonde's incredible speed and coordination. The old trainer began licking his lips, seeing money signs in his eyes. One of the black fighters shouted out, "Hey, the man may be fast, but I bet I can whoop his honky ass." Man may be fast, but I bet I can whip this honky ass. Whip his honky ass. The black mutant in white, dorky, honky form smiled, then tried to hide his excitement. He put on a frightened face and asked the black fighter, "Gee, Mr. Negro, you're not going to hurt me, are ya?" he asked timidly. All the others in the gym laughed, realizing what the black fighter was going to do to the frightened honky wimp. A few minutes later, the black fighter got in the ring with the mutant and waited for the bell. When the bell rang, everyone started laughing as the experienced fast, powerful middleweight boxer began giving the mutant fast punches to the face, snapping the mutant's face back. Suddenly, the mutant gave the fighter a fast, semi-powerful 1-2-3 across the face. The fighter tipped backwards and fell through the ropes like. Everyone was shocked and surprised because the mutant had just beaten the best in the gym. "Honky just got lucky," said another fighter as he challenged to take the mutant on next. After the mutant had beaten all the 20 fighters in the ring with one punch in the first round, the trainer that was going to throw him out of the box out at the beginning begged the mutant to not leave the ring. "What's your name, kid?" the trainer demanded to know. "Please tell me. You need me as your manager." "Honky's revenge," said the mutant like a geek and revealing his racist side. It wasn't long until the news was reported that Honky's Revenge wanted to take on Sheridan. Sheridan agreed to take revenge on after Revenge took on the number one contender. Sheridan would fight Revenge in the country's largest prison in Arizona, known as Tapache Prison. The Black Mutant couldn't wait to beat his robot. He had the robot posing as Sheridan to be programmed to tell the world that he wanted to beat Revenge as soon as possible. What the Black Mutant meant with that, the Black Mutant met. Yeah, the Black Mutant couldn't wait to beat his robot. He had the robot posing as Sheridan to be programmed to tell the world that he wanted to beat Revenge as soon as possible. With that, the Black Mutant met his phony Sheridan duplicate in the Tapache prison just 4 days later. On the night of the fight, the whole country of America was tuning into this fight, including Newton. Not only were fight fans, but scientists as well. The scientists just couldn't believe that Honky's Revenge was a real person, because not only did he have a stupid, unnatural name, but he was able to beat black men in the ring. On the day of the fight, Sheridan weighed in at 220 pounds. The Black Mutants, as Revenge, weighed in at 190 pounds. No one knew who the underdog was or who the champion would be because both were so strange. When the bell rang, the prisoners in the auditorium didn't know who to vote for. They hated Sheridan for beating and killing the black champion of the world, and they hated Honky's revenge because he was able to beat other brothers and because he called himself that name. Not only that, but no one liked the fighters, including whites, because the whites didn't want to be thought of as racist for liking these fighters who apparently were anti-black. I hope they beat their brains out, shouted an angry prisoner in the crowd. Although no one liked the fighters, the Black Mutant had rigged the fight to be exciting. He planned it in such a way that he would knock out Sheridan in the 8th round. After it would look like Sheridan was winning. The fight became very exciting, but the Black Mutant lost himself in the fight by getting angry at his robot. His robot hit him a couple of good ones that put the mutant in a daze and caused the mutant to lose his temper. In the 4th round, the whole world became shocked and frightened when Honky's revenge reduced Steve Sheridan to a pile of burning robotic circuitry, laying smoking on the canvas of the ring. So hot were the electrical fires that it caused the boxing ring to burn up. I don't believe it, shouted Newton as he watched the ring burn up on his viewing screen. This boxing business gets cornier and cornier as the days go by, said Callisto. Newton, this boxing business gets cornier as the days go by, said Callisto. Newton, what's going on here? Asked Doug Davis. Newton sat up and walked into the middle of the bridge. He said, "Now we know for sure that Sheridan was one of the Black Mutant's robots. I mean, no robot has the type of machinery. No robot has that type of machinery in this century, but the mutants." "Who was it that beat the robot up?" asked Sheena. Newton looked puzzled. Maybe it was another robot? But if it was, why would the mutant be destroying his robots in the ring? The mutant is crazy, but I doubt that he would want to destroy his robots just to freak the world out. Apparently, the Black Mutant killed Sheridan, then fixed up one of his robots to look like Sheridan, then probably had it kill Tyrone Nimbus out of spite? But why? And why, after he kills Nimbus, would he use another robot to destroy the Sheridan replacement? It just doesn't make sense. Callisto walked up into the bridge, saying, "I don't know. I don't think Nimbus was killed by a robot. I think the Black Mutant is able to absorb someone's DNA in such a way into the transporter's computer banks that when he beams down onto Earth, he can look exactly like the person he had his transporter absorb into the computer. I think it was the mutant himself who beat Nimbus. And when the mutant got tired of parading around as Sheridan, he had one of his robots take his place." Newton agreed with Callisto, saying, "You're right, Callisto. It must have been that way. It must have been the mutant who killed Nimbus. For instance, a robot just isn't quite as fast and powerful as a fighter like Nimbus was. Nimbus should have at least beaten the mutant's robots on points." I have a feeling that the mutant is still afraid to tell the world that he beat Nimbus and his robot, from the fear that he will change time. I bet you anything that he'll probably show his true colors in the next few days. I'm pretty sure he'll do it within the next few days. Newton suddenly walked into the transporter room. "Where are you going?" asked his crew. "Believe it or not, I'm going to play the mutant's little game and show the mutant that he can't keep on fooling the world. I'm going to make him realize that no matter how great and powerful you are, there is always someone who is stronger and can keep you from hurting others. An hour later, Newton beamed down onto Earth with Obacoba. They stood out in the middle of the pasture of Brockton, Massachusetts. Obacoba walked up to Newton and turned and touched Newton on the shoulder. When Newton turned around, he frightened Obacoba. "What happened, Newton?" shouted Obacoba. "Yuba look but like Bamiba." Newton had Obacoba beamed down with him so the computer could make Newton look like a black man. Newton told Obacoba, "There are a lot of blacks in America who are very angry that a white man was able to beat one of their black boxers, especially someone as great and a credit to his race like Nimbus was. So angry and depressed is Black America for having a white boxer humiliate one of their brothers that it's causing a lot of racial uprisings again. Blacks are killing whites now. Koba, I have to beat the racist mutant parading as a white man. And I have to beat him while I'm in the form of a brother." "Yuba think this is going to work?" asked Obacoba. "I don't know, but do I look like a soul brother to you?" Obacoba said yes. Koba said yes, but told him he didn't sound black. Realizing that he didn't want to have Obacoba's speech impediment, Newton asked Jeff Long to come down. Newton had Jeff Long rap off a few sentences of a black New York dialect into his universal translator. Jeff Long said, "A hip, a hop, a hippity hop, a hip hip hippity pop pop pop, a hip hip hippity hop hop hop. Testing, 1, 2, 3, said Newton with a perfect black dialect. "All right," grinned Newton. "I sound just like a bro." And he slapped Jeff Long 5. Jeff Long smiled and said, and then beamed back. A few hours later, Newton entered the same gym where the mutant got his start, and after beating everyone in the gym with one punch like the mutant did, it wasn't long until Newton signed a deal to fight Honky's Revenge in Atlantic City a month later. So much publicity and attention was Newton getting from the media as Dupree Jackson that it forced the mutant to stay under the phony identity as Honky's Revenge. Whenever the law wanted to find out Revenge's real name and identity, the mutant threatened to quit fighting, causing the Mafia to silence those who wanted info. For publicity of the fight, Newton was called up from his rented room to meet Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. Sure, why not? Thought Newton, and he appeared on The Tonight Show as the Black Dupree Jackson. It appeared to be another boring interview, but what amazed the world was when Newton, this black boxer from Massachusetts, sounded exactly like the man. The man. He sounded like the educated space alien from the future that he really was. Wow, thought the whites, this black man must be a genius. After the interview, a couple of producers asked Newton if he was interested in doing any news anchoring. "He's a genius," laughed one of the whites. "He must be, because he sounds white." A few minutes later, the black mutant was in the ring as Honky's Revenge. All the blacks in the audience booed him, while all the whites and KKKs cheered him. A few minutes later, Newton came down the aisle, shadowboxing, and carrying a loud ghetto blaster that was blaring out loud rap music. Seeing this caused the blacks to cheer. Newton slapped 5 the blacks as he tried to touch them. As they tried to touch him. as they tried to touch them. Jeff Long and Obakobo wore dark sunglasses and acted as though they were going to be Newton's cornermen. Sheena walked with Newton. Newton then infuriated the white race by kissing this pretty white girl in front of the world. "See my lady," said Newton. All the blacks cheered, "Ow! Kill the nigger," shouted the whites to Honky's revenge. "I will," said the racist black mutant. The racist black mutant shouted angrily. The mutant laughed, realizing that his artificial limbs were charged up to their strongest. When the bell ringed, or dinged, the two fighters came center and started punching at each other. The black mutant wasn't using his strongest on his opponent because he wanted to save the fireworks for the very end. He had it planned. The black mutant had it planned that he would make his black opponent look like he was winning all through the fight. Then, in the 15th and last round, would shatter all the black race's hopes and expectations by beating the black man with a very humiliating KO. Everything was going the mutant's way, but Newton, as the black Dupree Jackson, did such a good job of humiliating the mutant with taunting jive talk, and fast 1-2 across. Everything was going the mutant's way, but Newton, as the black Dupree Jackson, did such a good job of humiliating the mutant with taunting jive talk and fast 1-2s across the mutant's face that the mutant quickly lost his temper and started throwing the same killer blows he furiously and stupidly destroyed his expensive and valuable robot with. The mutant especially lost his temper when all the blacks in the audience started laughing him to scorn. "I can't take it anymore," he screamed at his trainer. When the bell for round 7 sounded, the mutant tore into Newton, hitting Newton with his might. So powerful were the mutant's punches, the entire stadium echoed like a cannon was going off. Newton was knocked into a daze. No! Cried the blacks when they saw their black hope staggering around the ring. Another punch from the mutant sent Newton crashing semi-conscious up against the rope. Suddenly, Newton hit the canvas from a thundering right to the jaw. Newton would have been counted out, but the mutant just stood over him, making obscene gestures at the blacks in the audience, accidentally letting Newton recover. Newton quickly got up to his feet and realized that he should have lost. Seeing his opponent on his feet shocked the black mutant. How could he have survived? The mutant thought there must be something the matter with his limbs. Fearing that his limbs were running down, the mutant quickly tried to put Dupree Jackson away. "Yay! Yay! Yay!" cheered the whites again as he tore into the black man again. Newton quickly blocked all the mutant's punches. So fast and furious were the two mutants going at it that everyone watching the fight couldn't believe their eyes. When round 7 had ended, everyone was on their feet cheering because no heavyweight in boxing history was able to perform such a fast, dramatic attack on each other as these two fighters. You's going down, Honky," grinned Newton to the black mutant. The mutant was on his feet. He was so furious that a black human, was able to survive his punches that he couldn't sit down. When round 8 sounded, he practically flew out to Newton. He pinned Newton into his corner and began hitting Newton with his might. So violent and furious was the attack that everyone was on their feet screaming. The mutant was giving Newton some dazing punches that caused some blacks in the audience to want to fight the whites. Race fights were breaking out in the bars all over the country. Suddenly, the whites in the audience began screaming, "No!" when Newton began bashing Honky's revenge with his might, sending the mutant to stagger back. "Yay!" cheered the blacks when Newton lifted the mutant up off his feet with a punch to the stomach. Newton gave the mutant a strong left to the jaw, then a powerful right to the head. So loud and powerful were the punches that the audience became silent. When Honky's revenge crashed down onto his back, the referee was going to count the mutant out. But suddenly he became shocked when he saw that not only was Honky's revenge black and blue from the punches, but he was really black. The punch to the side of his head had ripped open the side of his face, revealing the patch black, revealing a patch of black mutated skin underneath. "I don't believe it! I don't believe it!" shouted Howard Cosell type. The referee quickly began counting the mutant out, but the mutant got up onto the ninth count. "What's going on?" shouted some blacks. As the violent supernatural fight continued to progress through the 11th round, people didn't know what to think. The race fight quit when everyone realized that Honky's revenge wasn't a white man, but some weird extraterrestrial with yellow glowing eyes. The people in the audience didn't know what to think or feel. Many of them were afraid. Now, not only were blacks rooting for Dupree Jackson, but the whites as well. Then, in the 14th round, Newton's black skin wore off, revealing his normal white skin. The black mutant hit Newton across the jaw so hard that tore off his black face and his afro. "Newton!" shouted the mutant. "Hello, Newton. Hello, mutant," said Newton. "Hello, mutant," said Newton. Suddenly, the mutant furiously spun around and kicked Newton onto the side of the jaw, knocking Newton out. The mutant then freaked everyone out when he flew out of the ring and crashed up through the ceiling of the auditorium. The world then gasped when Newton and crew beamed out of the arena. This next story I'm about to read to you is called Robert M. Wilson, the Black Mutant. The world was shocked at what had happened in a boxing ring in Atlantic City, and now everyone realized that Earth had truly been invaded by warring alien life forms. No one knew what to expect, but most feared the worst, especially when President Wilson reappeared and told the world that he had been beamed aboard the Black Mutant spaceship. No one realized that that Robert Wilson was really the Black Mutant until Wilson started making tough demands on Prime Minister Borsky of Russia. Wilson told the Soviets again that they and all the rest of the world should be very nice to America, or he would have the Black Mutant destroy them. Hearing this proposal caused Borsky to become terror-stricken. "No!" cried Borsky, thinking back to the time when the hideous mutated creature had him by the testicles, by the balls, I guess you could say. Wilson called Borsky up and told him to take Soviet troops out of